when I moved to China in 2010,
Yeah.
I came back in like end of 2012, and some things were different. One thing was sour beer existed. That was a thing. Jester King and everything started while I was gone. Four Loko had come and gone, and then Fireball existed, and I'd never heard of Fireball before. Maybe it existed before I left for China, but I never had it. Yeah, and so I get back, and my friend Eric and Crow, their mom takes us all to go to Cheer Up Charlie's, and she buys us shots, and she's like, "Do you want a Fireball shot?" And I was like, "Sure." I didn't know what it was, and I thought it was like maybe a flaming shot. I was like, "Okay, cool, that sounds fun," and it ended up being Fireball, and she thought that. And so I drank it because she bought it for me. But I was like, she kept buying them for us all night long. And I was like, no, this is terrible.
I'm so sorry.
Thank you for this.
Yeah. Yep. Just water, yeast, and barley.
Yes.
A little bit more.
Yeah. I'm a purist. I don't want whatever the fuck's in Fireball. What is it? Nobody knows. They don't have to put it on the label.
Yeah.
That I struggle with.
Right?
And there's different formulations because there's a malt formulation that ends up in the grocery stores or the.
I know. I remember there's a whole thing about it.
And then the whiskey is most likely a blended Canadian type of whiskey.
No, but I mean,
just flavored.
What is the cinnamon taste? What is making it sweet and cinnamony? That is spooky. That they don't have to divulge.
Artificial flavor, artificial color.
Well, and it's like I have to put ingredients on my bags of tea that have one ingredient, which is tea. When the health inspector comes around, he will give us shit if it does not say tea on it, and we had one guy reject it because he's like, no, but what's in the tea? I'm like, tea.
Camellia sinensis.
Camellia sinensis, exactly. But no one puts that on their. I'm not going to sit there and put that. But we have to put ingredients on our one ingredient. Just leaves, and then whatever the fuck is in like Four Loko or Jägermeister or whatever all these things are with all these crazy ingredients.
Blow your mind?
It blows my mind, and it makes no sense from any perspective.
And Corey's recording. This is a Fireball rant.
Oh yeah, this is not. This is now an ingredients labeling on alcoholic beverages inconsistency rant for me.
Well, for me, it's like, how does all of those eggnogs not explode if they're using real cream? You know, like
why would they explode?
Well, especially.
And there's not much alcohol in them for preserving.
They're pasteurized usually, aren't
They're
they?
in the fridge.
Most likely.
They're in the fridge.
No, they're sitting outside on the counter.
Pick a tea that we can talk about the tea a little bit more this time around.
Okay.
A little more about the tea.
A little more about the tea.
I'm loving this.
Not like the whole episode.
The whole episode on tea.
Just pick one that's good.
I mean, I can talk about all of them. I could have talked about that last one if you wanted. Let's see.
The last one wasn't worth talking about.
It was good. I love
This is his shtick. It's his character that he
right.
plays.
It's also to get
now.
energy in the room.
Well, what's the next whiskey?
The next whiskey is going to be Starward. It is an Australian whiskey that is aged in red wine barrels, but this one was finished in Lagavulin barrels, which we've had Lagavulin before as well.
So red fruit, smoke. So ready for this.
Okay, so something with some body.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this one's going to be a
Like me.
cool one. That would make a good little Instagram rant or a TikTok rant on the fireballs.
Were you really recording?
Always.
He's always doing
Now I know.
Because so much good stuff happens when we're not on camera. Actually, sometimes I think it's like the best stuff happens when we're not on camera. It's like some psychological thing. I don't know what it is. But
You press record, I hit record, and then scrub whatever
Gotcha.
okay, I'm gonna do a move. I'm gonna do a white tea, even though we're going with like a full-bodied whiskey. I'm gonna take a risk and do a white tea because it's got a good story. And
Do we need an introduction?
Yeah, let's get one.
Let's get an introduction. Welcome back to still Austin. We're normally at West China Tea. We're with Sohan and Amanda Beckwith from the Virginia Distillery, and we're so glad to have you here. This has been a lot of fun on the first episode. We're going to talk about some more whiskey and try and get into some world single malts, which are going to be fun. And Sohan, you've got a new tea.
I got a new tea. Corey wanted me to talk about the tea, so here's a tea that I'm going to talk about. This is what do we even call it? Amethyst. We gave it a new name. What it is wild purple white. So tea plants are green, except sometimes they're purple, right? So you've got purple cabbage and you've got green cabbage, right? And they're still both cabbage. And you can make coleslaw out of both of them. And it's not like one is a new dish. It's just coleslaw made with purple cabbage, right? So purple tea isn't a type of tea like white tea or red tea or green tea or oolong tea are types of tea.
Okay.
It's just a phenotype, right? It's just a pigmentation scheme that tea can have. You basically got those two colors. You got green, which is like any other tea, and then rarely, very rarely, you have purple. And it's a mutation. And it's not always purple. Sometimes it's red, or sometimes it looks like black. Sometimes it looks like brown. But the point is that tea has color morphs, just like people do. And the purple color morph of the tea plant is rare. And when you want to make tea out of just the purple tea, you are producing way, 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 way less than you make of the non-purple tea, because you go through a field of seed-propagated tea plants, and every like 1,000th, 100th, might be purple. Depends on where you are. Ngunnaw Mountain, where this is from, has a lot of purple plants. Just like Scotland has a bunch of redheads. Red hair is very rare. It's a mutation. It's extremely, dwindlingly rare in the human genome, but it happens sometimes. And some places have more of them than other places. So Ngunnaw Mountain has lots of purple tea. This is made from that naturally occurring mutant purple tea. They call it ziya cha, and it's been processed as a white tea. Right, so you can take the purple tea and you can make green tea or red tea or oolong tea or white tea or yellow tea, any kind of tea with these purple leaves, just like you would make with any other tea plant. But it does contribute something to the character of the tea. What that is, I will not say, because that's just the subjective thing, and I'll let you just try it and draw your own conclusions. But it does make it look purple. This is the naturally occurring purple tea, and there's a cloned cultivar of purple tea that they also make tea with, and that is much more purple looking. This is kind of, you can see it's like, you look at the coin, it's very heterogeneous. You've got different colors in there. And what that is that these are seed propagated plants that have, each of them has different unique pigmentation because they're all genetically distinct.
Okay.
They just happen to share in common that they're darker than the green.
I was doing rainbow carrots. We just got them from the store, and the purple took over the entire pot. So there was yellow
pretty.
carrots and white carrots, and
It all and that's anthocyanin. Is the pigment.
Anthocyanin.
Anthocyanin is the purple pigment, and that's what's in blueberries.
Yeah.
It's what's in all the purple and blue things, basically, and it's supposed to be good for you.
Love it.
How it's good for you, the jury's out, because that's how science is. But it's definitely antioxidant, and it's supposed to be good for your circulatory system and preventing cancer and your liver and your kidneys and all these different things, and capillary strength. But it remains to be seen exactly how it's good for you. But it seems to be good for you. If you remember a couple years ago when blueberries were a superfood,
Yes.
Right.
like a decade and a half ago, that's because of anthocyanin. Because they're like, oh, anthocyanin is really good for you.
Right.
What is anthocyanin? Blueberries, superfood. Trader Joe's, alert Trader Joe's. But yeah, it's in tea also. And so when tea has anthocyanin, we call it purple tea.
And then white tea is also full of antioxidants because it's younger, picked earlier, and doesn't have the...
It's funny. The white tea, so you can have, what you're referring to is the buds of the tea plant, the unopened leaf buds of the tea plant. And we associate that with white tea because of Snapple. In the late 90s, Snapple came out with a white tea product, and that they had 10 seconds in an ad to explain to people what is white tea. And so they said it's just the tips. It's just the tips of the tea plant. The PG tips, when you talk about super tippy golden orange pico, this is a word they use in the tea industry. Tip means in Western tea means the bud of the plant. You can see them in here. I'll pull one out. You can hear. I'm sorry, Corey. The audience is not going to get to see this because can't turn it sideways because there's water.
Don't tell me what I can't do.
But you see this little guy sticking out there?
Yes.
That's the bud.
Yes.
And so white tea is called white tea because when the buds are processed as white tea, which it means it's just sun-dried, then they look white. When the buds are processed as red tea, they look gold, and when they're processed as green tea, they look silver. And so the buds can be in any type of tea, and you can make any type of tea out of all buds. And so there's a very famous white tea called Silver Needle that is all buds, and it's sun-dried, and that's the most famous of the white teas, especially in the West. And so Snapple kind of grabbed onto this definition. That's not actually the definition of white tea. The definition of white tea is that it's sun-dried, but Snapple if you say that white tea is white because it's not cooked, which is what I really mean. There are the green teas that are sun-dried too, but they're cooked first. White tea is white because it's not cooked. You can't say white tea is white tea because it's not cooked without begging the question, so what teas are cooked and why? And what is tea anyways? And they didn't have time in their 6-second ad segment to explain what tea as a plant is and that it can be processed in different ways and that one of those ways involves just sun drying it without cooking it, obviously. So they're like, it's just the tips. Right. And so in America, we think of white tea as being just the early, young, new growth, which is higher. That part of the tea plant is the highest in antioxidants. But you can also make white tea with just leaves with no buds at all. And it's still white tea because it's the process.
And this is something that we've been talking about a lot, is that when you're trying to teach somebody the basics, you're actually glossing over a lot of things, and you can get a lot of, actually, it's a little bit more complicated than that.
Gotcha.
You can pour it in here, rinse out our cups, get that sticky rice shung taste out of our
Even
cups.
doing tastings at the liquor store when people are coming over and you're trying to give them information, the first thing that you give them is the broad strokes, and until you find out they're more interested.
Right.
And then as they sit and they're sipping and they're tasting things, it's like, well, what are you experiencing? What are you tasting? Or this is what this is made from. Here's some of the grains that go into it. This is some of the processes that go into making it. And you sort of feel people in that conversation is, are they interested in that or not? Do they require more information? But it starts off with fairly simple conversations till you find out what level the listener is at.
Mm-hmm. And then as you grow your education, or if you're teaching at a higher level, you have to kind of unpeel the generalizations that were learned that might not be fully accurate, and then re-educate to a more accurate, concise manner.
Yeah, more nuanced.
Yes.
Yeah, it's funny because you can appreciate tea without knowing anything about it.
Yes.
But if you want to know anything about it, you're going to have to get a whole lot of information that is not what you asked to contextualize the information that you're getting. Like what you just said about white tea. What is white tea?
Yes.
Well, if we really want to know what white tea is, we have to go all the way back to tea as a plant, which obviously you know, but not everybody does. Most people don't. You got all the way back to what is white tea? Well, you have to start with what is tea. These generalizations people think they know because they haven't been in a context where they get this nuanced presentation. They're trying to get the elevator pitch, the TLDR of what this thing is, but that can, and that's fine to give something that's really glib like that, but it actually can be detrimental in the long run to that person's development in really appreciating and understanding the thing. And I think that tea merchants in particular fall prey to this so much when they what is a glib quick thing you can do to get someone to like or buy a tea, bottom line, buy a tea. Put some spices in it, put some, flavorings in it, put marshmallows in it, whatever. And people be like, oh, this smells like Pure One Imports. I love this, I want this. It's a good way to make a sale, scented teas. And we just drank a scented tea with sticky rice, so I'm not against scented teas, but I think it's a trap that tea merchants will fall into. It's like, well, if I sell this one with apple cinnamon flavor, then people will buy it. And I need to make money, and I want people to buy it, and then they'll get a tea. But the thing is, if you go around thinking that this thing is supposed to be flavored, then you never get to appreciate, or not never, but it becomes harder. It becomes an obstacle now.
Yes.
It's been a leg up in getting into the thing and as far as consuming it, but it becomes an obstacle to really getting deeper into the thing.
Yeah, what you're saying also is about sales. It may not be anything about the process or the product. It could be about the rarity or the luxury of the product, the perception of this makes me a person who is rare and refined, and therefore I only want things that are rare and refined. So it could be a conversation towards the buyer of the product and who their clientele are.
Oh yeah, all right, that worked. Every time I make tea in a new environment, even if I'm using stuff that I'm used to, then it can sometimes it comes out different, Corey, you might want some of this because this is probably something you want. I don't know. You want to give you a.
Just pour some in my hand.
There you go.
Here, just get on your knees and I'll pour it right in your mouth.
Just some coffee cups back here.
Oh, here we go. Yep. Here you go, Corey.
Yep.
Fill it up. Put some ice in it.
There you go. There. Where's your hand? Where's your grabby hand? Your monster hand.
That's actually something that happened here in the U.S. when tea came to the U.S. It became something that was iced.
The World Fair.
Yeah.
Oh.
It was, I believe they were from India, and they had brought the tea, and it was so hot, no one was drinking a hot tea. And so one of the men was like, I just need to have some, give me a bunch of ice. And it caught on like wildfire. And it was in the South that it kind of took on that.
Wow, yeah. I got tea lore in the whiskey podcast. I did not know.
It'll never happen again.
I had never heard that story. Why don't we have World's Fairs anymore? So many good things come from World's Fairs. Ice cream cones,
electricity,
electricity. Yeah. Some president got shot and they used the first X-ray to pull the bullet out of him or something like that because they was out of World's Fair.
Ferris wheels and
yeah, all these extremely unusual foods, like a lot of like the classic American foods come from the freaking World's Fair.
It's
funnel
true.
cakes, hot dogs.
Yeah.
We have the expo now, and no one cares about the expo.
Aw, they need to name it the World's Fair.
They
then.
do. Why did they change that?
No,
So dumb.
this is beautiful.
That is nice.
Yeah, this one came out really, really nice. This white teas are just so elegant. They are just they're very. I think of them as very feminine and very like elegant and very comforting.
Yes.
And they really, when you give them the right amount of attention, they can really just like really shine.
Do you have to be careful not to oversteep?
This one, because it's a coin and because it's a leafy. If this was all buds, it would be clear like water. Right. If this was a silver needle,
right,
and if it was instead of being a mix, you see now you can see a little bit. Corey, I don't know if you want to zoom in, but you can see there's a mixture of leaves and buds, and the leaves are giving it that dark color.
Yes,
because they're oxidized and they're purple. So some of this color is also the purpleness coming out. It doesn't look purple in white tea form as much. It comes out more of this brown. But you can if this was a non-purple tea, the leaves would look different. They would look more green. Yeah, they have a lot of the color that they have is from that, but also the oxidation of the leaves. The buds don't really oxidize very well because they've got very little surface area and they're hard and they're tight and they're drier, and so they don't oxidize. They're not this big open thing that oxidizes the way that the leaves do. And so when you have a leafy white tea, it oxidizes more, and when you have a buddy white tea like silver needle, it oxidizes very, very little, and so you end up with a tea. They call it the liquor. In Chinese, they call it the soup. The liquid part of the tea, the soup, is clear like water. So when you get a silver needle, it might be clear like water with like a little grayish, bluish cast to it, like just very, very. If you held it next to some water, you'd see that they were different. But looking at it, it's just very, very clear. And that's so when you see that color, that's where you get these tannic notes.
Yes.
Just like whiskey, it's like a lot of that color comes with this astringency to it. And so when you see a white tea, even though white teas are renowned for being very light, I went with a not all bud white tea. I went with a more lower grade. There's quality and there's grade, and there's 3 grades of white tea. All buds is silver needle, like we talked about.
Right.
Highest grade. Middle grade is Bai Mu Dan, buds and leaves. White peony is what it's called, and it's a mixture of buds.
That's white peony?
That's white peony, yeah.
I love
so
that.
Next grade down, buds and leaves. So early spring, all buds. The leaves have not opened yet. That's silver needle, top grade, highest grade. Then you've got white peony, which is mid-grade, and that's later in the spring. And then the end of the season, you've got shomei, this is probably shomei grade. They don't use that grading system in Western China. This is an Eastern Chinese, Fujianese grading system. So this tea, being from Western China, it's from Yunnan. They wouldn't use that grading system on it. But if I was to transpose this tea into that grading system, it would be a nice shomei. It'd be nice. It means longevity eyebrow is what that grade, the 3rd grade.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, exactly. You see that sometimes.
Yes.
You see it translated sometimes.
I never knew what it meant.
So they're all the same type of tea. They're all white tea, silver needle, white peony, longevity eyebrow. They're just 3 grades of the same Fujianese, Fuding white tea tradition. And this is not from that tradition, but it would be, if you were to translate, it would be a shomei grade because it's almost all leaves and then you got a few little buds in there.
Gotcha.
Right? And those leaves are going to give it more astringency, more body, more flavor, more color, and are going to make it more likely to get bitter. So you do have to be careful with the time. Temperature-wise, I'm not going to cool the water for this because it's pressed.
Yes.
And it's a white tea, and white teas, especially this is a little bit aged, I think it's from 2022. So white teas age well. And 3 years is a benchmark, and 7 years is a benchmark. 1 year, 3 years, and 7 years are like the magic numbers for white tea.
So like green, do it in a year.
Do it in a year.
But white.
Yeah, green, do it in a year, maybe 2. And asterisk, some green teas do age well, but not the ones that you'll see in like the market. It's complicated.
Gotcha.
It's complicated.
Okay.
Yeah, it's complicated. So that's a whole other thing. But yeah, this because you get that color, you do want to be more careful of the trinity. Also, these tea coins are a very heavy dose.
Okay.
This
yes.
is not even started opening yet. This is, by the time we're done, this is 7 grams, so it's gonna be really full of tea when we're done.
How many waters could you do with this?
15.
Oh my gosh, that's amazing.
Yeah, the coins are really, really cool in that way that they can.
So Souchong, as an importer, how do you shop for tea? As you've got connections and things that we don't have. When I'm in a liquor store, for example, I'm looking for certain things. One thing that I like to look for is value for money. The other thing that I like to look for is strange collaborations, weird and odd. Things that it's like, I didn't know they were doing that. And it's like, I wonder what that tastes like. What is it that you're looking for when you're looking for a tea to bring to the tea house?
Would I buy it? And if I bought it and drank it, would I feel like it was good? Would I be happy with it? Would I feel like it was worth the amount of money that I paid for it? That's it. Yeah. Because I'm not out there looking for teas. I'm out there getting introductions to people, right?
I love
From
that.
people that I already know.
Yes.
Mostly. Very rarely am I going through never anymore. Maybe when I started, I did that. I did that more. I definitely did that in the first first couple sourcing trips. I'd go to tea markets, but honestly, that's not where you find good tea. It's not in tea markets.
Really?
You have to know people, but once you know people, they can introduce you to other people they know, and then you can make your way through. It's called guanxi in Chinese. Guanxi means relationship. So you just guanxi your way through the world of tea. You just have to have good connections, and those connections will give you good connections. But
this is what you've been doing this past week, Amanda. You're here in Texas from Virginia,
Guanxi, yeah.
And you've been visiting a whole lot of people, a lot of mutual friends.
Yes.
You were even here at Still Austin.
Last Thursday.
Yeah. So I'm seeing some pictures on the internet. So of the things that have happened this past week, tell us some of the memories that you've collected, experiences.
Yes. Well, I was here in October with you both. And it kind of killed me that I didn't have time to come by Still Austin, and then Chris Seals wasn't going to be here anyway. So we were talking, and he said, "Well, come back, and I'll make sure I'm here." So we coordinated, and I said, "Okay, I'm going to meet some friends in Texas. Say when." So I was already planning to come here, and then Nancy said, "Well, guess where I'm going to be?" I said, "Okay, perfect," because I get to see Nancy once or twice a year. If that.
Nancy Fraley is the blender. She works with multiple distilleries, similar to what Irene Tan is doing.
Okay.
But she is a consulting blender with multiple distilleries, and she's known in the business as the Nose.
Right. And we were talking about her earlier?
We did talk about her.
Okay.
We brought her in 2015 to do a class for our team, and we just really bonded, and she's been so generous, and then she offered to be my mentor.
Oh, cool.
And I am so grateful for her. And she works here at Still Austin with beautiful whiskeys with the team.
I'm really impressed with how many women are in the production side of whiskey. I had no idea before we started this
Wait till you hear who I've been with.
Yeah, tell me about it.
Yeah, about a year ago, one of my dear friends who I've known for years, she came from the Seattle Symphony, Anna Hens, and she was working part-time at Wanderback, and then that got her into Westland. She and I have been friends, but rarely get to see each other in person. Caitlin Bartlemay from Hood River, McCarthy's American Single Malt, the OG, Emma Crandall from here at Balcones, and Erin Lee from Pew. We all have been meeting up virtually, sending each other whiskeys, sharing, and I got to see them all separately last year and had such good conversations, but we'd never all been together. And some of them had never met in person. It was just through a screen. So we said, let's plan a getaway where we just get to be friends. And everybody was seeing us and saying, what are you guys working on? What project? And we were like, we're working on friendship. And drinking good whiskey and eating good food. And we just got a house together.
Right.
And we hung out. We just had the best conversations, and they surprised me. So Emma Crandall was going to meet up with me here in Austin, and we were going to drive to Waco together. and the others surprised me because of storms. They had to come in early. So
Right.
I was literally here at Still Austin hanging out with the crew, and the door opens and I see them all come running in, and I think I lost my mind for a minute. There was hugs and happiness, and some of them had never met Nancy Fraley, so I got to introduce them, and it was just, these are the kindest, most passionate, talented women.
Wow.
There is no gatekeeping. They are here to give you whatever you need and go above and beyond. My life is so rich because of them.
Yeah.
And we were all so emotional saying goodbye, and we're already planning our next meetups. And I got to spend a little more time with Emma because she came back to Austin with me yesterday, and we had our little coffee meetup in the afternoon, and saying goodbye was really hard.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So this is a personal trip, not a business trip.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You are the only business. This is fun, so it doesn't feel like business.
Cheers.
Yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, that was my caveat when we started doing this podcast. I was like, it can't be all dudes. It can't be all dudes. I'm not going to do the show if it's all dudes. But yeah, I've actually we've had lots of women as guests.
Wonderful.
And yeah, it's really cool. I feel like the production side is maybe more diverse than the consumption side.
Yes.
Because that's why I was worried about it. Because like you kind of from a fan base view, it is very like male dominated, or what I've seen has been like very male dominated. But on the production side, you do have a lot of women doing really critical roles at the production of the whiskey.
Yeah.
Iron Root Republic has the mother of Texas whiskey, Marsha Licorice.
Yes.
Yeah, so she's
Such a good name.
Yeah.
All around.
Great
Such a
name.
good name.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, there are some great women out there, and they also have women of Texas whiskey groups.
Great.
Where they get together and have conversations. And so you've got Marsha Milam and Heather Green over at Milam and Green, and also you've got their distiller over there. I forgot her name. But yeah, there are a lot of really talented women in the industry, and so they're all getting together and they're all having conversations. And so the Women of Texas Whiskey is one of those venues where they get to meet up and have these types of conversations as well.
Cool.
The Single Malt Association with American Single Malt, that was another way for all of these distilleries with similar wants and needs to have a definition for American single
That's
malt.
great, yeah.
And they ended up finding and meeting each other through that as well.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of collaboration going on, and people are not, like we were talking about, gatekeepers and get off my lawn and you can't do that in whiskey.
Right.
It's not happening. It's actually more collaborative here in Texas. All of the distilleries have all had friendships amongst each other, and when they're having troubles, they're all helping to troubleshoot. Ty Phelps over at Andalusia is one of those brewing type of people that help people with brewing issues. He helped Iron Root. Jared Hebstead over at Balcones has helped multiple distilleries get up and running as well. So there's a really good collaborative feel there, and that's where this comes in. This is a
Beautiful
collaboration.
segue, Richard. Beautiful segue.
I like when things come together, and this is an interesting bottle.
Some nice packaging.
Beautiful
there.
packaging.
Yeah, let the camera see this.
Yeah,
Wow,
it's got some wonderful packaging.
It's kind of got like a 60s-y, like space age.
And
little
it's got
thing going on
actually
there.
some tasting notes in here, maritime influence.
Oh, this is a diagram of
Tropical
some kind.
fruit. There's a lot of, when it comes to blending and the way people see things in their minds, there are a lot of different graphs that blenders use to bring out the different notes, and they're going to go, okay, these are wood notes, and what am I getting from the wood notes? And these are fruit notes, and what am I getting from fruit notes? This gives you some of those. So maritime influence, tropical fruits, coastal peat, modern twist, rich.
Okay, so it's not a diagram, it's just a graphic.
Yep, just a graphic.
I was like, does this correspond to something on the tasting wheel? No, it is a logo. Okay, it's cute. It's super cute.
It is, it really is. And this one was my Christmas present to myself, and it was also a present for us to have here, because I knew we were going to be filming again. And this is not an American single malt, but it is a single malt finished in, it's actually aged in red wine barrels and then finished in Lagavulin barrels. Lagavulin.
Australia.
Yeah, Australia meets Scotland in a bottle. So these are fun collaborations. I really like the idea that East meets West and all of those fun things.
North meets South.
North meets South.
Yes.
Well,
Cheers.
cheers, mate.
Mm-hmm.
Good night.
Cheers, Chase.
Cheers. Oh, man. It's got some nice flavors on there.
Makes so much sense, you know.
Yeah.
Australia, all the beautiful vineyards right there.
Well, I don't know if we've had an Australian whiskey on this show.
No, we did a New Zealand one, and you weren't there for that.
I wasn't
Is that
there for that.
Cardrona
Yeah.
or?
Yeah, it was a Pocano.
Oh,
Yeah.
I haven't tried that one
Yeah,
yet.
that was good.
Pocono.
Pocono.
Pucano.
Pocono.
Is it P-U? Was it P-O or P?
P-O-K-E-N-O.
Pocono, yeah.
Yeah.
Pocono. Yeah, I studied Maori.
Oh.
I went to New Zealand in like 2004 for a semester.
Nice.
And I actually took Maori, and it's a beautiful language.
Yep.
Yeah, and New Zealand, I love New Zealand. The indigenous people of New Zealand have a lot more agency and visibility than indigenous people almost anywhere else in the world. I think already
the
first
haka
world.
that they just did.
Yeah.
Oh,
in
watching
the
news.
parliament.
Yeah.
It was powerful.
Yeah.
Yeah, good
Yes.
for them. Yeah,
Yes.
they should be running that government. So
So
Yes.
do you
Kia ora.
do you have an Australian accent speaking Chinese or?
Put him on the
我
spot.
不知道，我没试过，这是我的第一次吃，不错，我觉得。Apparently I do. I guess I do. Yeah. There's a lot of Chinese people in Australia too, so hopefully some of them are seeing this and appreciating my Mandarin with an Australian accent.
Cultural
It's
appropriation.
a very narrow niche of people. Yeah, there you go. Yeah.
This does have that hint of Lagavulin in there.
Yeah, it's
my
nice, I like
my
it.
experience with Starward goes back. There was a Total Wine pick. I think they were the first ones to import Total Wine, and I
Yeah.
believe it was a single barrel release or a small batch release. And that was going back to 2018, around the same time that I was introduced to Virginia Distillery.
Wow.
There was a brand rep that came through, and he had the core range, and he was tasting the different liquor stores. It wasn't on the shelf yet, so they were just going
down
around.
in Texas, we probably were not much in
Yeah.
Texas at all then.
Yeah, just going around and introducing it, and then it was 2 to 3 years later, you started
Yes.
seeing them coming on, the cider cask and the
Yeah.
and the cuvee, and it was about a year ago, maybe 2 years ago, on my birthday, I was given the cuvee cask, which was a store pick for Total Wine, the one that
Okay.
you were representing when you came
Yes.
to the Total, the same Total Wine.
That's
And
awesome.
that was a birthday present from some dear friends, and yeah, it was. Starward to me is like, I've always got like a citrus zestiness to Starward. The red wine really, the fruit notes were not really overpowering
No.
at all. It was a nice malt, but I can't detect really much of that in here.
There's more chocolate even
Yeah.
than, yeah.
So the peats, there's no peat involved in the production of this. It's just the
Just the
barrels.
cask.
It's just the barrel, yeah, yeah,
That is a smoky barrel.
it really was.
Wow, that's great. I love it. You know, I love smoky whiskey. So I'm like,
Well, I have to talk about something crazy I've been working on. I love Lapsang very, very
oh
much.
yeah.
And one of the things that I love about just Lagavulin is that note that I pull out, the Lapsang Souchong. So I started making reductions to cask strength whiskeys of mine using Lapsang tea just to drink at my desk.
Wait, so what do you mean by that?
I would take whiskey that was aged in an ex-bourbon barrel, so pretty straightforward, and then just taking the Lapsang Souchong tea that I was making and adding it to the whiskey to reduce
The
it instead
leaves?
of water. No,
No,
an already
just
brewed
diluting
tea,
it.
diluting it. That was my reduction water. And people started being like, what is that? What is that? So it's taken on a life over the past couple of years, and I've never released it. It's just one of those crazy things, but I love the Lapsang note that
when
comes
you're
from Lagavulin.
getting it down from cask strength.
Yeah.
I was like, what is a reduction? I guess I didn't know that term.
Bottling.
Got it.
I was, working like
Interesting.
Now you were talking about the Tanninger. They have an interesting process here where they're doing something similar to what you were just talking about, where they are essentially aging water in barrels.
What?
So Petito, yes, this is a brandy technique, and that's one of the things I went to France, I've studied with Nancy, and that's a big thing where you take water, you age it in a barrel, and it's a much more gentle mechanism for reducing to bottling strength. And actually,
Because
I've never
you keep the barrel
confessed this to
flavor.
anybody outside of my company, but I do have a Petito cask that is a Petito because it is aging Lapsang tea in a
Liquid.
cask, liquid.
In
Yeah.
a cask. How big of a
Yes.
cask?
This is a small one that we bought from another distillery, so it's a 26-ish, yeah.
What kind of cask is it?
It
Like,
was,
what was in it?
It held bourbon, just a Virginia bourbon from a distillery down
And
the
it's
road.
just tea.
Just tea. Well, no, I've fortified it now. I've slowly been
Okay,
fortifying
okay.
it, and I would only ever use it as reduction water. This
With
is a big secret.
fortified
I
with-
might never release anything.
With just with make.
No, with aged whiskey that
With
was
aged
aged
whiskey.
in an ex-bourbon barrel.
So Petit O is
Fascinating.
just French for the words little water.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
Petit is little,
Petit O,
O
yeah.
is water,
And you're able to put
little
different
water.
lipids and lactones and all sorts of things.
Very
Yeah.
Vanillins,
interesting.
yeah.
Very
And
interesting.
it could be just something I just drink on my own and share with the distillers, and we just have fun because we like peats.
I've
very
also
much.
heard another technique in brandy where they'll take a brandy and if it's not heading in the direction that they want, they'll end up cutting it with a lot of water
Yes.
and using that as their proofing water as well.
Absolutely.
Well, we can.
Add a little bit of tea into our.
Oh,
Here, you can have
okay.
some more if you want. We can
Okay, we'll just do that. Thank you.
just to see what happens.
Ooh,
What
nice.
was the ABV of this? I didn't.
Ugh, I
originally.
believe it was 46.
Okay.
If I recall. 48.
It's good.
Yeah.
Honestly, tea and whiskey together, we call it pooski because we usually use puar.
Right.
We call it pooski, and it is a thing that me and my cohort have been consuming for maybe like 15 years or something.
Yeah.
Where we'll take hot tea, usually rye whiskey is what I like to put.
Bring in those
Yeah.
peppery.
Yeah, I
spice
usually would
notes.
do choux puar with rye whiskey or like bourbon or like Jameson or something like that, and just something, and kind. I don't know what your dilution's like, but my dilution's like right about right because it makes it sweet.
Yes.
It makes it sweet. Yeah.
Sweet, malty. I mean, the grain character is just popping. Yeah.
Yep.
And
No, I love
warming
a good
it
pooski. Yeah.
is a powerful mechanism for bringing out more of those aromas and flavors too.
Now Corey wants
Join
some.
us. Yeah.
Did you go on that?
The aromas
Oh.
definitely changed too.
Yeah. It's a lot sweeter, a lot more fruitier.
Yeah.
Yep.
Fruitier.
I
Yeah.
get more of the red fruit now. too.
Yeah. I was gonna exactly.
Raspberries,
yeah.
cherries,
Or
strawberry.
even like red grape a little bit.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, 'cause
Violets.
Can I have some more? There?
There's
that
some
was
floral
that was
notes coming
hiding in
through.
there. It
Yeah.
really was.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one. Not every tea mixing tea with liquor most of the time doesn't work, but when it does, it can be really good.
Yes.
And actually, me and Nate, one of my business partners and like my main collaborator in this project, he and I spent like a whole like summer basically coming up with different tea and liquor combinations.
Do you have a favorite?
Yeah, there's one that he made that he called Texas Star, and it can't be made anymore because the tea doesn't exist anymore.
No.
But you would. It was a 2006 Bai Mudan, so a very old Bai Mudan. And back then, this is like in 2012 or something, so it was like 6 years old. So we could get a 6-year-old Bai Mudan, and then Antique Reserve Gin, which was gin that's I think aged in a whiskey barrel or something like that. It's brown, whatever it is. And then a little twist of orange peel. What do they call it? The zest?
Just the pith or the-
Not the pith,
Okay,
the zest.
the
Yeah,
zest.
just the outside. Little curl of that. And we never put sugar in them, and we never really put anything in them. We just the orange zest was as far as we went, adding anything besides tea and liquor. Everything that we did, there was duck shit tequila, there was That was a good one. There was Jinshan, the Lapsang we blended with gin, actually, white gin.
Oh,
yeah,
that was lovely.
Souchong. What I found is when you try to mix the smoky tea with smoky whiskey, they just kind of...
They would battle out.
They battle
That's
out.
why
They clash a little
just
bit.
the classic single malt. Yeah.
So when I'm combining tea and liquor, which again we did this, almost 8 years ago or something. We did this process, but there were a couple of good ones came out of it, and in all cases it wasn't really what you'd expect. There was really all about bouncing the flavors off each other and complementing each other, and
that perfect contrast.
Yeah. But when you get it just right, then you don't actually need any syrup or anything. I don't like sugar in alcohol personally. I'm not a big cocktail person, and so it was fun for me because getting to there are two subjects that are so broad and so nuanced. Liquor in general, or even I was specific as whiskey, like we're doing here, but and tea, of course. There's just so many different flavors. And there's something about the singular nature of it. If we were blending, when most people make a cocktail with tea, they're using chai, they're using orange tea, or they're using something that's flavored. They're actually not using tea. They're using something that has tea in it, but it has all these other spices and stuff on top of it, and that's what they're really using. But I think that's what makes single malt special. Is that you are taking one of those factors and you're narrowing it way down, and you're limiting it.
Yes.
And it's in that limitation that you can appreciate that nuance. If you just are doing whatever, I always say you can be a chocolate connoisseur. You can't be a candy connoisseur. It'd be meaningless to be a candy connoisseur because you can't compare 86% Costa Rican cacao to like Laffy Taffy. There's no comparison. They're completely different things. Just like if you're, you don't go to, you might go to some kind of like weird horizontal flight where you're drinking like whiskey and gin and rum from the same distillery or something like that. But like, that's kind of a novelty thing. Like when you're really interested in something, you want to stay in that category so you can compare in a meaningful way between these things. And I think
you're reminding me of Jack White from the White Stripes. He basically says that creativity comes from limitations, and when you limit yourself and you've only got two instruments, you've got to fill out more of the sound. If you put your keyboards 2 steps further away, you have to rush to get there for that part. It makes if one of the strings breaks, like how do you continue playing? And it forces you to be more creative and have and work within the limitations and become more creative. So that was one of those stories where it's like, oh, that's a life lesson. That's if you want to try something new or be more creative, hobble yourself somehow. Take something away and then try and make it work and see if it works, like 2 ingredient cocktails or 3 ingredient cocktails. How do you make that work? Working with the different teas that you were talking about, and how do they pair with the different whiskeys? That was fun.
Yeah, that was a good one. Like I said, they don't always work, but whiskey is a good one. Whiskey is a good one, and something like this, red tea, white tea, Shupor, the dark teas.
Yeah.
This kind of white tea, the aged white teas, the leafier white
only
teas. Yeah. You like oolongs?
Yeah.
You like some oolongs? But they always go well with whiskey, just in a general sense. It's hard to miss with those ones.
Some of my favorites are the oolongs. Yeah.
Richard's an oolong guy.
I am. Yeah, so especially in the fall. I don't know what it is about the fall. In the summer, I'm more like green tea. I find green tea is a little bit more fun. But this is such a wonderful opportunity to have you here. And it's been great to have Souchong back on the podcast so that we can talk about tea and whiskey. And these travel sets, these little tea tubes, those are available.
They're on the site. You can get the starter kit. It's the whole set and the tube and the class, and it's $120.
There you go. Perfect. Anything that you want to promote? Anything that you're working on?
Ooh, that's a great question.
Anything that we have to look forward to?
Well, yeah, we've got a couple of things rolling out this year. A few more collaborations with favorite breweries. So some limited releases there. And then we rolled out a few things at the end of last year, and label redesign
wonderful.
for our American single malt. So BDC line, we have Courage and Conviction, which is the standard 4 plus occasional specials, but the BDC line is cask finishing. So we've got a cider finish, port cask, Cabernet, and Blue Ridge, which is a toasted Virginia oak cask finish. Yes.
That's a new label or the old label?
That's the new label for Courage and Conviction. So that's staying exactly as it is right now. The medallions and everything.
Good.
But the VDC line, instead of being all primary maturation like Courage and Conviction, is aged about 5 or 6 years in ex-bourbon, and then an additional year, 2 years, sometimes more, in different casks.
Now, we didn't even talk about the Courage and Conviction story.
Oh yeah.
There's so much distilleries.
Next time.
There you go. Well, it's
good. It's a good label.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Good
I
branding,
can take zero credit for that.
Good typeface. I'm a big typeface fan. Good typeface is a thing of beauty. I'm not good at picking them. I just know when I see it. You know.
It's like me with books with raised lettering. So satisfying. Yeah.
Well, we're so glad that you came to join us today, Amanda. This has always been a lot of fun, and I'm glad that we were able to find a space and Still Austin was able to accommodate us.
Yes, thank you, Still Austin.
This is a great thing. We want you to join us on our adventures. We still have some temporary delays with the new tea house. We will be out doing things here and there along the way, so follow us, like us, share us, do all of those things that they tell you to do on social media. Every one of them. All of them.
Cheers to that.
Cheers. Thank you, Amanda.
Cheers.
So lovely. I had so much fun.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was awesome.